And you're muted, Charlie.
And I'm muted.
All right.
I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 27 of the Coin Jam podcast. Woo. And we got an extra large show for you this evening, or whenever you're watching or listening. Not only am I joined by my typical partners in crime, Kay from Prime Arcade, Liam from Retrobotics, Chance from the Canadian Arcade. We also have the one, the only, the irascible Mecca. All right. And in fact, Mecca fans have been in the live chat from the beginning, getting hyped, getting excited. We've got ARC checking in, a bunch of Overtime Arcade channel members, Jumping General, Wayne, Random Billy Bob, Arcade Maze, Nick Madsen is here, who recently just celebrated a birthday. Mr. Nick Madsen, happy birthday. Overtime Arcade channel member Papa Sean 69, tubing in as always from Peterborough, Ontario. And we are off and running. How are you guys doing? What's going on?
Ooh, not too bad.
Yeah.
Mate.
Oh, Mecca, what's wrong?
Why?
Mecca's had a bad day? No. Okay. All right. Chance has had a bad day. I get it.
I've had a great day.
Oh, okay, good. You
Chance has a soundboard, so we're all about to have a bad day.
Oh yeah, this is great. Yeah.
In the green room, named after Mecca's cup, Chance was sighing left and right, and we all thought he was disappointed. But he's already finishing his first beer, so this might get really interesting. We'll have drunk off his keister Chance and unhinged Mecca going at it one-on-one in a fatal. What?
This will be great.
Already we're off to it.
I said the fun's gonna be great. What did you think?
Oh, that's not what I heard. I don't know. I just assume any word that starts with the letter F that comes out of your mouth, I need to edit in post-production.
No, because I have this.
John Fisher, channel member, checking in. Another channel member, Marky Mark, a recent addition as a channel member. And yeah, we're rocking and rolling. So, yep, we got a special guest here, Mecca today, who I've been chatting with a lot lately. Many of you know him from his infamous posts on KLOV all the time. And so should be a very familiar name to you all, but maybe not a familiar face, but we'll get to know him quite a bit in a little bit. Some folks are claiming there's a lot of glare, maybe. I don't know. That's not funny, Nick. We're all getting there. But Papa Sean 69 is on beer number 6, so this could be an interesting episode. All right. So
Sean's from like Ontario. He could be on beer number 12 and he could still drive.
I mean,
like it'd be even better if he was from Saskatchewan or Alberta. Like, but the man
is that a thing? A lot of DUIs in Ontario.
No, it's in our blood. Canadians can drink.
You know, in Maine, which borders Canada, they don't call it a DUI; they call it an OUI, operating under the influence.
Interesting.
Because you're just as likely to be pulled over on a snowmobile as an automobile. So they try to keep it.
Let me put it this way: May long weekend in specifically Ontario is referred to as May 2-4. And that's because it's like a 2-4 flat of beer. May 2-4. Okay. That's what my wife calls it because she used to live in Ontario. May 2. That's how much they drink.
Okay, 2-for-1 beers. Is that what you mean?
2-4, like 24 flat of beer.
Like ARC is claiming that Mecca lives in Canada. He doesn't. He lives in a border state, as far as I know. Oh no, Wisconsin's not even a border state.
Wisconsin.
What am I talking about? I mean, you can probably take a ferry directly from Wisconsin to Canada, I would imagine. Yeah. So little hop across the pond. Yeah. But DWC, driving while Canadian. Is that what that stands for, Mark? That's wouldn't that be profiling? Pulling over somebody with Quebecois plates, just assuming they're drunk?
No, that's normal.
Yeah. All right. We're already Kay and Liam are already bored by the banter, so I would imagine our audience is as well. So what we'll do is, we've had this somewhat new format. We'll go around the horn with updates from everyone since the last episode. And then really our main topic of this evening is the handsome gentleman who has joined us. He will tell us all about his life. This is kind of a combination of this is your life Mecca as well as a roast maybe. So have your best cheap shots ready to go. Yeah, I was actually just talking with Mecca because both of us, as far as I can tell, share a mutual interest in wrestling, perhaps classic professional wrestling like the Macho Man right here. And not only was WrestleMania last weekend, but wrestling was also trending today because Kanye West tweeted, yes, Ye tweeted today, referring to Kim Kardashian as the Virgil to Paris Hilton. And, you know, for those of you that don't know, Virgil was famously the second banana to the $1 Million Man. And so Virgil was always like the guy that never got anything. He was like the hanger-on sort of sidekick, and they tried to push him as a main eventer, but that never anywhere. And he actually passed away about a year ago, so R.I.P. Virgil. But poor Virgil's out there catching strays, even posthumously. So
isn't like the head of your country's education system like the wife of Vince McMahon?
Yes,
that explains a lot about your
previous, a successful businesswoman in her own right. There was a great photo that was going around shortly after the inauguration, and it had Trump and some of his family members and like all the McMahons together, except for obviously Vince, who's not really in the picture anymore. And the caption was like, Stone Cold Steve Austin has given the stunner to 70-something% of the people pictured in this photo, including the president, because, you know, Trump had been on WWF multiple times in the past. So I got a kick out of that.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
ARC's clearly not
going over there.
Hey, man. Hey.
Speaking of wrestling, another recent death would be Steve Mongo McMichael. So R.I.P. to Mongo.
Yes, R.I.P. Mongo. I was about to go hard against Canada and talk about their newly minted loonies, asking if they're now calling them $2 Chucks with, King Charles on them. But that's okay. That's all right. It just
looks like a big ear from the side, like when you look
at
it.
Yeah.
See as an ear.
Yeah. You didn't decide to do face on instead of profile? Should be a little bit different. No. Okay. So let's go around. Let's do updates. Maybe starting with Liam. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on lately that we've been following in the channel member Discord, and you've been posting on KLOV. A lot of good successes. That some of which are even in the new background that you have. So why don't you tell us what's been
to the right quickly? There you go.
So a lot happened this month. No new content on the YouTube channel, not for a lack of trying. But we did have a couple pickups. One of them is the Judge Dredd pinball. I'm very excited about that. Another pinball for what we now have an actual pinball row. It's a great game. It complements our other games pretty nicely. I like that there's no pop bumpers in Judge Dredd. It's all just straight shots. It's a really cool game. It's got the Dead World mod, so it actually locks the balls up on the planet versus just letting them fall right through. So it's pretty cool to see that little robot arm going. Also picked up a Warp the other day, cocktail Warp, which is a pretty
ultra rare.
You bought
ultra rare Warp, dedicated Warp cocktail.
You were given a cocktail?
Yeah.
Not only that, hold on, we'll get to this in a little bit. Liam was offered 2 free cocktails in the same day.
I turned one
down one and turned down one, saying, "I don't have room for more cocktails."
Well, this one was about to go to the dump. It was going to go to the dump if I didn't pick it up.
So,
but the other thing that I was really happy for and most excited for this month is I finally got iRobot working. This has been an adventure for a while now. The iRobot picked it up last year. Probably the worst cabinet we've ever picked up. It was fire damaged, water damaged, stripped out, and turned into a bootleg Galaga. But thanks to generosity of some people on KLOV, we were able to find all the original parts for it. So it is running in a fully stock configuration with a disco monitor and the switching power supply. And
the terrible PCB. Atari switching power supply, not a regular switching power supply.
I did get the switcher working, so that's pretty good.
Hold on. Last time we talked, you said everything was lost in the mail.
It eventually turned up. It was lost, and the USPS could not find it for a while. But eventually, I think they found it under a pile of boxes somewhere. But it took almost a month for that package to make it on its estimated 3 days delivery.
You could have driven down there back and forth.
I know. I thought about it, but I was very nervous for a while there, and
it's been going on a lot. Like I've had a couple packages from Arcade Parts and Repair that usually go from, is it Missoula? I think Missoula in Montana to Dulles and then right to me. So often I get Arcade Parts and Repair shipped via USPS in like 2 business days, like not express, just normal. But now, then I had one time like a year ago where it went to Honolulu before coming to the East Coast. Which I was told is efficient to do it that way.
Yeah, this one also went the opposite direction before.
A bunch of stuff has been going to Spokane and then sitting in Spokane for like a week before coming out. And then I had something I bought.
Spokane,
Washington State. Yeah,
that's a new one.
Yeah, I think it's bigger than Calgary.
At least you said Calgary right.
Yeah. And then I had something I bought on Saturday, maybe Friday or Saturday. It shipped from somebody on KLOV, and it was a big thing. It's got a bezel and stuff in it, and they shipped it in an old iMac box, so giant box. And that got FedEx to me over the weekend and arrived like Monday at noon, like super fast, and they didn't pay for overnight. Sorry, Liam, I've been talking over you.
No,
but you got everything showed up.
It did, and everything worked well after I spent many hours rebuilding that Atari switcher.
Nice.
But I've been playing a ton of iRobot. It's a absolutely fantastic game, and the joystick is new old stock and is pretty much flawless. So I've been having a great time with that. I have been working on some of our other games. I rebuilt the power supply on the 6-player X-Men, which resolved some audio issues I was having with it. I've been working a ton on Major Havoc, which has been problematic lately. So while it's been down for the count due to a bad Lita, I have taken the opportunity to strip it down and redo the cabinet side art, which it was ruined when I got it. So now it has the full This Old Game Major Havoc art kit on it.
Nice.
Which I think is cool. It's better than what it had before, which was nothing. So that was fun as well. And other than that, just general maintenance on some of our other titles. Been going around taking old bottle cap transistors out and putting new ones in the event of failure, making sure everything is good. Oh, Mecca might be interested. One Williams update. I was able to get a original blaster joystick for Inferno. So only one more to go. Hopefully Inferno will be done soon.
Huh. Very cool. Yeah, and we were, with iRobot, I've actually started appreciating it more lately. I never really got into it. And then it was our game of the week. Was it last week in the channel member Discord? We do a weekly tournament. And it looks like this year, Dilwey might not win. He might not win the annual prize. So, but we played iRobot, which plays surprisingly well with I've got a,
it plays great on an Xbox controller.
I got like a Super Nintendo style USB controller I use for MAME on my computer to play games that I don't have. But yeah, it was actually kind of fun. I enjoyed it.
There's a lot to it. There's a lot of ways to score points in iRobot and a lot of different strategies you can employ going through the game. It has a surprising amount of depth.
I have not actually played one in a very long time. Why wasn't it popular? Does someone want to jog my memory?
Good question. There are a few reasons why it wasn't popular and why it failed.
Okay.
The first off is that because of the 3D viewpoint, it was a lot going on, and it was seen as sort of troublesome for new players, too complicated to understand really what was going on in there. And the other reason was it was expensive for the time. It was a very expensive upright, and it was unreliable. It was packed full of unreliable parts. The switching power supply was unreliable. The board set was unreliable, especially with the custom video processor. And the monitor, the disco monitor, was unreliable, and it was fed from a DC power supply, so it wasn't always something that you could easily drop in with any other monitor at the time without modifying the cabinet. It was just a complete perfect storm of failing parts that made it so that iRobot did not last very long in arcades, and it didn't earn that great when it was in arcades either, just from the sort of intimidation factor of the machine itself. And the Doodle City mode that they put in just to brag, the engineers, because that didn't help things either, because people would accidentally select Doodle City and get stuck drawing shapes for 3 minutes instead of playing the game, not realizing that there's a way to go from Doodle City to the game mode if you so choose. A friend of mine, an engineer, came by and played the game a couple weeks ago. And the thing that stuck with me when he gave me his feedback on the game is he said it plays and it feels like a tech demo, like engineer bragging rights. And that is completely accurate. That is exactly what it is. It was Atari showing off, saying, look at what we can do. We got 3D rasterization technology. Isn't that great? And they forgot to make the game approachable when they were trying to just show off.
There's a good game in there, though. There's a good game there. And it's 1983, right?
84, but the hardware
84.
was ready in 82. It was started in 81.
Wow.
Not a great time for the industry when the game was
There's a bit
released.
of controversy about like what title gets to claim to be the first 3D game between iRobot and CubeQuest, because CubeQuest technically hit the market first, right before iRobot did. But iRobot was working and in test locations before CubeQuest project was even started. So CubeQuest was
So iRobot. That's a clear winner. It was out publicly.
In test locations, but it wasn't released before.
But that's still publicly, like...
Yeah.
And CubeQuest is our game of the week this week in the tournament. So,
nice.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Kay, what about you? What's been going out there in West Texas?
Dust. That's all we got here.
It's dust season. It's pollen season out east.
Yeah, I mean, if dirt doesn't give you a boner, don't come out here. So, recent pickups. I made a trip to New Mexico because I found an ad on Facebook advertising a Black Pyramid pinball machine, and made a deal to go and pick it up. Black Pyramid is the pinball machine that I have owned more times than any other machine. I don't know why. I've just found more Black Pyramids than any other pinball that I've ever worked on. It's not an uncommon game. They made like 2,500 of them, I think. But I have owned 5 or 6 of them.
Exactly, 2,500.
I don't like. I've Playboy, like 1978 Playboy, is the one I've owned the second most of. And that makes sense because it's like one of the most mass-produced pinballs of all time. I've had like 3 or 4 of those. But Black Pyramid, for whatever reason, I've come across so many times. It's not a bad game. You know, it's not great, but it's not bad. So I make a deal to go get this thing. And whenever
Playboy had, by the way, 18,250 of that one.
Yeah. So it makes sense for me to come across so many of those. So I make a deal to go get this pinball machine. I'm thinking in my head, this is like a 2.5 hour drive one way. And I type it in my GPS, and I realize I'm mixing up the town that I'm thinking of with a different town. And it's actually more like 4.5 hours one way. And I'm like, well, I'm already committed. I guess I'm doing it.
It's like you thought you were going to Wichita Falls, but you're actually going to Wichita.
Something like that, yes. I'd mix it up with a different city that I did different business in. And it's like, no, it's actually much further than that. So, yeah, I was doing it on my day off. I was like, well, I guess this is my entire day now. But I was already committed to the buy, and they had already agreed to a lower price. I was like, all right, we're doing it. So that was my entire day. But I went and picked it up, and it was in pretty good shape. It was almost mint condition when it came to the side art and everything. Back glass had a little wear on it, but the play field was pretty great condition too, and it ended up cleaning up very nicely. While I was there, she mentioned that she had a Pac-Man as well, and asked if I wanted to take a look at it. And so I go and take a look. It's actually a cocktail, and that thing is nearly mint condition as well. Just a little bit of wear on the bezel. That's about it. The monitor was immaculate. It looked like it had been rebuilt yesterday. And so I'm asking her about that, and I make an offer on it. She initially turns her nose up on it because she thinks that, you know, you can sell these on eBay for about $3,000. And I'm like, I wish I could retire like tomorrow if I could sell these things for $3,000. So I make my offer. She says no. I'm like, all right, I just walk away and keep going and putting the Black Pyramid on the truck. And then as I'm doing that, she comes back, makes a counter offer. I'm like, no, I'm where I am, and just keep going. And as I'm pushing the Black Pyramid on the truck, she's finally like, yeah, okay, I'll take that offer. So yeah,
I've bought cars that way before.
Just call the bluff. Just go. You don't need it. So
yeah, I didn't need it at all. I happened to have the cash on me, and why not? But I was totally willing to walk away. I did not need that Pac-Man cocktail, but
like at the end of the day, as a business though, like the Midway Pac-Man cocktail is like the cocktail that everybody wants, and everybody
it'll move.
Like, yeah, it'll move.
I can sell it
all day long. Yeah.
And I made an offer that I will make some money on, you know, but it does not hurt me to walk away from it.
No.
But
it would hurt more if you overpaid.
Yeah. That's the smart way of doing it. Take note, kids. That's how you negotiate when you don't want to pay more.
You say, yeah, make a fair offer, and if they don't take it, walk away. It's that simple. So I did end up getting it, and I barely had to do anything to it to get it in my showroom. I didn't even have to recap the monitor because it turned out it had been recapped fairly recently.
I think you were going to say it was like home use only, and she had never turned it on.
No, she had it at her home for the last 10 years or so. So it had been very well kept, but it had been maintained pretty well, I guess, before she got it, because it had been recapped, and it had a speed up chip in it, and it had some operator tags on it, so they had done some maintenance to it before they got it to her. All I really had to do was replace the lock, replace some lights, and replace the fan. That's about all I had to do to it. Spray out the dust. I did very little to it before I had to put it on the show floor. Wipe it down. That's about it. And yeah, there's nothing. The Black Pyramid cleaned up very nicely. I think I replaced the battery on the MPU and a coil or two. Just cleaned up a bunch of stuff. I didn't have to replace much of anything. Almost everything just cleaned up nicely. I did replace the rubbers and stuff like that, but as far as parts, I didn't have to do much. And I did make a video on that, a couple of videos on that. So if you check out my TikTok, you can see the before and after on that Black Pyramid, and it comes out very pretty. It's a very pretty machine. I also have a couple videos on the Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man that I picked up that I mentioned in the last podcast. There's the before and after on that as well, and that turned out very pretty as well. That machine's not as fun as Black Pyramid, I don't think. The maze mechanic in Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man is unique. I don't think it's fun, but it's unique. There's probably a reason why they didn't put that in any other pen. I don't know if you've ever played that pen and ever experienced that maze mechanic, but I mean, it's something.
Is it better than Baby Pack?
Most
it's different from Baby Pack. I mean, Baby Pack's not great either, but at least you know what they were going for. In Mr. and Mrs. Pack, it's a 5x5 grid that's just LED lights, and all you're trying to do is fill all the light grid, and you're the yellow light, the ghost is the red light, and you're just moving one by one as it chases you. You save up moves by hitting different targets, and you try to land in the saucer to get to the maze. It's whatever. That seems to be the entire point of the pinball, is saving up the moves to get to the maze. But the maze is not that fun, so the payoff of playing the pinball is that's your payoff, I'd rather just play the pinball. So taking up half of the pinball play field to get to that, you should have just put some more targets or ramps or something in there instead. It kind of wasted the space.
Are there any of the pins that have a video game theme? Are there any great ones?
Controversial
Like
hot
Spy
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
Mhm.
Controversial hot take. Roller Coaster Tycoon is amazing.
The Spy Hunter's not. Street Fighter's not.
One of
Mushroom
the
Kingdom
two,
is not.
One of the two Mario Brothers is, and one isn't. I'll let you decide. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else, Kenny?
For stuff that I'm working on now, I had mentioned the Sega Turbo and the Popeye in the previous one, the previous podcast. I have not started on them yet, but I will start on them soon. So expect videos on those. I'm in the middle of working on a Fast and the Furious that I got for free. I was working on some machines for one of my clients, and Fast and Furious was one of the machines that I was working on, and it's got some PC issues. And I recommended sending that PC off to Raw Thrills and having it repaired. And he didn't want to bother with that. So he was just going to take it to the dump. And he's like, "Do you want it? Like, you can just have it." And I'm like, "All right. Yeah, I'll take it." And so I'm not going to send it off to Raw Thrills because that's expensive. So I decided I was going to try to fix the PC myself.
You'll never see it again.
Yeah.
Like we've got a what is it, a Buck Hunter HD at the bar. It's been sitting downstairs in the office like for 3 years because the power supply went on it. And like I can replace the power supply all day, but like they want us to send it to them. And it's like, no. Like
Mecca's got a hook up there. He might be able to sort you out. Cool.
You're shaking his head no.
Not him.
It's a John Young. Not for this guy. Anybody else, maybe.
Peace.
So the Fast and Furious, there's two different kinds of PCs that can go into it. There's the Microtel and the Dell. The Dell is the superior one. I've got the Microtel. So I've been trying to I'm in the middle of recapping that motherboard. It's got a little bit of corrosion damage from the battery holder that I'm gonna try to cancel out. I am not a PC guy. So this is actually the first time.
You're a Mac?
You're not a computer guy at all.
Yeah, I'm not a computer guy at all.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first motherboard I've ever actually recapped. I've recapped, hundreds of PCBs and monitor chassis and stuff like that. But this is the first motherboard I've ever even tried to repair.
What year did that come out?
Early 2000s.
Okay, so that could be suffering from like that era of like really horrible caps.
Badcaps.net.
Yeah. Look that up.
So some of the caps were pretty swollen. I don't know that any of them really leaked. I think most of the damage that's on the board was just from a battery. But I don't think it's anything that can't be repaired. It's just that those Microtel computers are just not very high quality. And so I'm sure putting the better caps in there are going to help it in the first place. But if I can't get this thing repaired, there's several different models of Dell that are compatible with this thing. And I've got just a mountain of computers that I have just kind of laying around in the shop that I also got for free. And I did dig one out that is compatible. So I should be able to get the software from Raw Thrills, upload it to that, and maybe I can just use that computer instead. So I'm going to attempt the repair on this PC first, and if I can't get it going, I'll just make this other one compatible instead.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, I'll probably end up with a working Fast and Furious. It's just whether or not I can get this PC to work. I'm going to attempt the repair first.
I believe in you.
I wouldn't.
I don't.
I don't.
Yeah, no.
I don't.
I like you, but I don't believe in you here.
Nah.
Good stuff. All right, I want to say thank you to channel member Marky Mark, who gifted a 1 month free trial membership that I believe went to Sprint Star, who is a repeat recipient of that. Sprint Star also has a YouTube channel. He's been working on a candy cab, which has been kind of fun to watch. And also want to say thank you to channel member Papa Sean 69 with a $200 million Canadian super chat donation. It says number 7. I'm guessing that means it's maybe his 7th super chat. Thank you for that, Papa Sean. Also, a bunch more folks have showed up. We've got Retro Reads, aka Sam from Retrobotics. Arcade Cup is here. Durango King is here. Bunch of folks have been trickling in. Jay Peso is here. And yeah, we're rolling along.
Shout out to Arcade Cup for getting my Sega Turbo cockpit up and running.
Look at that.
8 years ago, however long ago that was.
Nice.
Free advertising on Mecca's chest.
There's a real
Oh.
a real big hole in that one. So
Number 7 means beer number 7 for Sean.
Oh, beer number 7. There
Yeah.
we go.
$2
There we
beers.
go. Cool. Chance, what have you been doing? Making any videos?
Yeah. Actually, a lot of non-arcade stuff, just hobbies around the house, getting some stuff done. $1,000 in Chinese aluminum extrusion. Anyway, just recently not found a buyer, but finished the deal for that Eldorado pinball machine. So that's going out the door next week when he gets back from vacation, which is excellent, but I'm sad to see it go. And most notably, arcade project wise, I did that sheriff bezel project wall hang art thing. I don't know if you saw that.
You're an artist.
Yeah.
You have a picture for us?
I should actually. So for those of you who are listening at home and not watching this on YouTube, I have Nintendo Sheriff upright bezel. That's definitely not a modern picture. We've known of about 3 or 4 Nintendo Sheriffs in this area.
You're not showing us what you intend to show us. We're seeing like your banking.
I'm trying to make sure there's no like horrible. There we go. Okay.
We know what's normally on his computer, so we appreciate the candor here.
Yeah. We've known there's about 3 or 4 Nintendo Sheriffs that were in Alberta. And so I've been sitting on one of these bezels for about 7 or 8 years, or like Sheriff uprights. And so I took one and I put it, I mounted it on my wall. It's like the worst. There we go. I mounted it on my wall and I put a monitor behind it and I put a playback box, and it basically just sits there and loops a 9-minute gameplay of Sheriff. So some LED lighting in the top because it's like one of those combined marquee bezel pieces of art. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of what I was working on. I've been sitting on that project for like almost a decade. I just wanted to get it done.
By the way, if you're listening to the audio version of this after the fact, I'd like to apologize how this section did nothing for you right now.
Yeah, my apologies.
Well, Chance, speaking of projects that have been going on for a decade, how's your Skyscraper? Oh, he quit.
He didn't even want to tell you. He's embarrassed.
I did not. For the record, that was fake news. Right. You kicked me out. I did not quit. I was closing my. Okay, so update on the Skyscraper. I'm actually really angry about this, but I don't know what to think about this because I'm kind of really angry, but at the same time, I've been told by friends that I should be happy about this, but I'm not. And the Skyscraper. So those of you who don't know, the Skyscraper program was offered out to a few people that had TNX boards, which are not Skyscraper boards; they're Nintendo Dev boards. Some became Skyscraper boards, some became Popeye boards, whatever. So those of us who were in the program have been working on our Skyscrapers for the better part of a decade. And we've spent quite a bit of money, not only on the art package, but on the shipping for the art package and our restorations and everything. And a week ago, scans of the Skyscraper art package and Gerber files for the conversion boards for our Popeyes were leaked on GitHub. Now that kind of sucks because I have not been able to get myself and other members of the Skyscraper community. We've not been able to get our boards to work because, long story short, we finally got our boards last year after waiting almost 6-7 years for them. The silk screen on the board says 2017. It's 2024 when we got our boards. So
2025 now.
2025 now, yeah. And back in December on the private Skyscraper Facebook group, yes, that's the thing. Back in December, a few of us kind of raised our, some notable people in the arcade community that are also part of this, raised our voice saying, hey, we're all pretty much stuck at this point in the conversion process. So for those of you who don't know, as part of the Skyscraper program, when you were part of it, because when you paid in to get into it, there was a cap of 10, 12 of us, that you got the art kit and you got a conversion board so that you could convert a Popeye to run Skyscraper, because they're very similar. And so that way we didn't have to mess with our TNX boards. And that was one of the things that initially drew me towards the Skyscraper program, because I don't want to bastardize my Skyscraper board or my TNX board for Skyscraper. There's no way I'm going to modify that. And anyway, long story short, back in December, we raised our troubles and basically got ghosted by the two gentlemen that are running the Skyscraper program. And it's been just a long, absolute waste of my time. It's more like a Skyscraper scam at this point. And so I've been kind of outspoken all day about it, because, a friend of ours who saw the link, or an acquaintance of ours who saw the link, he's someone who in the Nintendo community, when I say ours, I mean the Nintendo community, he posted the link on the Nintendo Facebook group. Him and I had a really good discussion about it. And I honestly feel like scammed. But you know what? I've been going so back and forth with this for the last decade that at this point, I don't even care anymore. I'm not going to be able to get the resale value for my cab. I've wasted a lot of time and money on, other than the fact that it is, as a Nintendo collector, something that I do want in my collection. That's what it's now going to be. So I'm not going to bother selling it now at this point. I'm just going to hold on to it. Resale value is pretty much tanked on it, even if I did want to sell it. And I wasn't going to sell it until my board was up and working. So that's frustrating. But
your face is getting really red, by the way.
Oh, it's been a long, we've been lied to about this whole thing for years. And it was excuse after excuse after excuse. And it was and berating, I would speak up about something and one of them would phone me or message me or call me on my number, because he's got my phone number, because I visited him on that side of the pond, and he would phone me up and leave berating voicemails on my phone because I spoke up about it. So a lot of drama. It is what it is. Anyway.
I figured he was turning red because he was just getting tanked.
Yeah. But
if it makes you feel any better, Rain and Billy Bob just donated $500 million.
Financial recovery. No, it's not that. It's not that. I've spent way more.
Also
on
for your
other
legal
games.
defense fund for your,
whatever. I'm in Canada.
Your slander case.
Yeah. Good luck with that. I'm going to be very outspoken. I live in Canada, not the 51st state. Come get me, bro. I'm going to say all I want.
The long arm of Billy Mitchell reached all the way out to down under, so it won't be too far to get to Canada.
I'm good. Anyway, aside from that, and again, I'm not naming any names because they know who they are. They know they pretty much scammed us. There's a group of people now. Now, here's where the silver lining is. This is why I'm not really that angry. Is because in the last 5 hours, and in the last week since it first quietly was launched or leaked, some of the people out there that are very in the know with this game and board set have offered to help those of us that are in the program get our games up and running. In fact, fun fact, years ago, a member of the MAME dev community was able to reverse engineer the ROMs to run natively on a Popeye PCB. And so those ROMs are out there, not publicly, but we were never told about those. It's part of the Skyscraper program. They actually turned them away when they offered to help, which they never told us about. And that'd be really nice to have known years ago, because we could have had our games running back then.
Even as a temporary option.
That would have just been nice. But that information only came to me about a year ago. And so we were very quiet about that. But I mean, the fact that very intelligent, very good people who are helpful people and want the best out of the best parts of the hobby are now out there helping.
I really hope you get it going now.
Yeah, because like this shouldn't have been like this. It was just gatekeeping. It was just like,
if I remember correctly, that was the message on that GitHub repository too, right? It was that, you know, this has taken so long to get working. Please, can some smart person out there fix this?
I don't honestly, I didn't know that GitHub was a thing until until like you said repository to me the other day, and I was like, yeah,
tell me you're not a software engineer without telling me you're not a software engineer.
I'm a marketing guy, dude. Like I don't know. Anyway, that's my update. So hopefully very soon we will have working Skyscraper daughter boards and or the ROM set, whatever has to happen. The art files are now out there, which sucks. I know there's certain parts of the art files that don't, like, that I have, which I guess arguably makes mine and the other 12, 14, 16 of us, however many extra kits they ended up printing, even though they shut a bunch of people out of the program that should have been in the program. Those kits, that art of our kits, there's little bits of that aren't available, like the little Nintendo tag and our serial tags and whatnot. I got a chance to look through the files this morning.
Somebody can make those.
Yeah, somebody can make those. I don't mind. At the end of the day, there's a bunch of us that we just want our stuff to work and we want to be done with this. And B, I think at this point, it is what it is. Like, people with pure, like, actual original, this was what Rick's argument was on the Nintendo's forums. The people with the actual Fix-It Felix cabinets from Disney, those still hold value. I don't even want to sell it anymore. Like, who's gonna buy a cabinet and ship it from West Canada and ship it anywhere in the world just because of what it is? It's the purchase pool goes down quite a bit when you can get the art package. So
this has been going on.
Eventually becomes a positive for your collection.
Yeah. I want to just get over it and get to let me go back to enjoying that cabinet.
When you get to play it.
Yeah.
Well, it's been like 20-25% of your life.
Yeah. Like, I'm 40. Like, it's almost a decade now. And, like, honestly, I want to go on the record and say Skyscraper, like, the gameplay in Skyscraper sucks. Like, that game is not great. There's a reason why it didn't make it to mass market. Exactly. There's a reason why it didn't make it to mass market. It's not the greatest game in the world, but it's still a cool piece of Nintendo history. And I think now what we need to focus on after this game is getting Sheriff. Getting Sheriff publicly accessible. Getting, like I said, we know of 4 cabinets out in Europe and Japan. We know of 3 that were here in Western Canada for sure. We know of 2 collectors in Ontario that have them. There's at least 5 or 6 Sheriff uprights that have existed in the Canadian market alone. But that was 79, right? So it was a long time ago to get those lost. So that's what's next.
Good stuff. Well, also want to say thank you to channel member Wayne. He gifted 10 free 1-month trial memberships to the channel membership program. We got Encore's Arcade, Arcade Eric Veely, the Claw Monster, Ian Guibert, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Michigan Porcupine, Carl Clausen, DE, Kurt the Daring, Spanky McFunderton, that's a fun name, and Gilbert Arcan. So welcome. And for those of you that are new, I will make a members only post after the live stream that'll have a link to the Discord for you to get in. If you've already have a Discord account and you've already linked your YouTube account to it, it should just show up for you as a Discord server. So thank you, Wayne, and welcome to all of our newcomers. Now, before I choke to death on pollen, let's go over to Mecca. We'll hear a lot more from Mecca in just a minute, but just for starters, Mecca, tell us a little bit about what you've been working on lately. What's been going on for you?
Oh, you don't want to know.
What?
You don't
tell us.
This
No.
is your
That's what you're here
opportunity to
for.
speak after
You are
45
literally
minutes.
here to tell us these things.
No. No, so I work at the Garcade. If anyone knows the Garcade in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, that's Gar, the boss man. He had a guy bring a space zap
Ooh.
to get fixed, and it wound up having, it was pretty trashed.
Sorry, Space App is the one that has like 4 or 5 PCBs in a
It's
little
one of them.
cage,
It's a
right?
it's a cage system.
Astrocade. Yep. Yeah,
It's
it's
black and white one, right?
Yeah, that one's black and white. Yeah. So in the back room, we had a mini Gorf, and I wound up like swapping the boards between the two games, and then I got Space Zap to work. I wound up having a bad data custom. The pattern board was bad, and then it became a thing where it was like, all right, we have to make a judgment call here. Is it going to be Gorf Mini, which is our game, or is it going to be Space Zap, which is this other dude's game, right? And I was leaning towards Gorf Mini, you know. So then you all mentioned something about the post office. So the man that owns the Space Zap, he wound up buying like a whole set of boards. If anybody knows KPW 66 from KLOV, he deals in those things, and like it got lost in the mail. And it's like it's gotten to a point where like years ago when I was like selling stuff, I was actually like putting in extra money to like pay for the insurance and whatever. We're at a point now where like adding to the insurance makes it a bigger target to get stolen, you know. And the part that like sucks about it is that they like rip this stuff off, and then they open the box and they're like, "What is this?" You know, and then they're just like,
Yeah.
So you know, it makes me mad. You know,
Can't you guys just fix that by like, because obviously like UPS, DHL, and FedEx is more expensive, but that difference.
Not always. Not always.
So, but then why do you guys still ship anything with USPS?
Because of the flat rate shipping. Like up to 70 pounds, it costs the same no matter what.
Really?
Yeah. Other ones. Well, you know what's funny is one of those flat rate boxes has, you know, like it has to fit in the box, obviously, and 70 pounds is the limit. And some physicist was like,
yeah, you can't even fill it with tungsten.
Yeah, like the heaviest,
Really?
the densest substance that's like stable, not radioactive or whatever, can't fit. You literally cannot put 70 pounds
they did that,
worth of matter.
They shipped a tungsten brick in a USPS small flat rate box.
And it was less than 70 pounds.
Seeing somebody trying to pick up this tiny box and not being able to.
No way.
But yeah, the others go by weight, like it's a calculated, you know.
But like we have a similar problem with Canada Post, but like we just ship US or UPS and FedEx, and plus it's whatever the cost is plus shipping. We always just do it, and like to calculate shipping is like
well, and if you're just doing one-off stuff, like it's just you, then yeah. But like, you know, if you do this as a business, or if you're trying to buy something from a vendor, what, you know, shipping options are built into their, you know, point of sale system. You know, like DigiKey will give you basically every possible option, almost like too many options, right? But there's lots of them that only do, you know, postal service. And then also, as if you're someone that's shipping in bulk, do you want to be dealing with, you know, multiple pickups a day, multiple drop-offs, you know, or do you just want to have one option so you only have to deal with one provider? So there's a lot that goes into it.
So Mecca, it will show up one of these days. It's
maybe.
No, and then the man like got into a fight with KPW about it, and it's like he didn't deliver it, you know, like he didn't lose it, you know. So fast forward to this year. Okay, now we have the FPGA data custom replacements, right? So we had gotten 2 of those, and I had put it into the CPU board on that game because the man bought a working pattern board. So I had to put the pattern board in, and I put the data custom in, and the game worked, right? And I'm like, all right, well, the game works. I'm gonna leave it on for a while, and I'm gonna go eat now, and I'll come back, right? And I come back, and the game's making like sounds, and I'm like,
Nope.
Space App don't make sounds. Like, what is this? And after weeks of like trying to figure out like what happened to this thing, it wound up being a bad address custom, which we don't have a replacement for. Now I had like 3 extra sets of boards like sitting around in the back, and I put every single address custom in. None of them work.
Huh.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? So this was like aggravating, you know? And the idea was I was going to put the game together and we were going to bring it to Midwest Gaming Classic. And that wound up not happening, right? So I'm like, all right, well, we're not doing that anymore. So then, like,
It happens.
Yeah.
And then like this week I started messing with it again, and what happened was I was able to get the game to work again, but the screen, it was just like line patterns, right? And I'm like, oh well, it's got to be a game board issue, right? You know, and I'm like going round and round and round and round with this thing, and then finally, you know, the significance of the minis is they bought like a ton of minis. Like the whole party room is just like a whole wall full of minis, like every Midway mini that they could get, because they're easier to transport to shows.
Yeah.
You know,
Cabarets are the way to go.
So that was why, you know, Gorf Mini, its survival is like, you know, priority number 1 here, right?
Yeah.
But I looked on eBay, I looked on KLOV. There's like none of that stuff for sale right now, so I don't even know.
And can you get it from like Astrocade computing hardware?
You could.
It's only you can.
You could, and
If
I know
it comes up for sale.
I know exactly where there is an address custom, but we'll work our way to that.
Okay.
So is it my turn now?
Well, let me do my quick updates, and then we'll get to the Mecca show, which is the main event here. So for me, believe it or not, I finally picked up a game. My first pickup of the year so far in 2025 was earlier this month. Really kind of a cool one. I got a Red Baron for $100, and this is pretty incredible. Liam was in on this a little bit. Mark from Back to the Media was in on this a little bit. So, you know, a couple weeks ago, you know, so Mark, Back to the Media, he has want to buy ads all over the place, right? Because he, you know, has an arcade, and he, you know, he also buys like, you know, vinyl and used console games and stuff. So he's got all kinds of want to buy ads, including for you know, arcade games. And he often will, you know, ask me my opinion on stuff, or he'll pass along stuff that like won't do well in a public arcade or whatnot.
Sorry, just to clarify, he's posting things on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace saying, if you have an arcade game, sell it to me, I'll pay cash. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. It's like you see the signs that say I pay cash for houses, you know.
Yeah. Hot tubs, used cars.
Yep. So he actually there was a pinball machine that he was interested in, and then he saw this in the background, but it was just like a sliver of like the side art of a Red Baron. He's like, you know, can you tell what this is? You know, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Red Baron, blah blah blah. And he's like, cool. And then I had sent that, I think, to Liam maybe, just to say, hey, you know, there's this Red Baron, maybe comes up for sale. And then flash forward maybe 2 weeks ago, Liam saw, because I guess Mark and the seller couldn't work out a deal for the pin, so she posted it for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and you could see the Red Baron in the background. And Liam saw it and asked me, hey, what's the story? What's going to happen there? And then I go back to Mark and say, hey, you know, did you ever, talk to the seller about that game, or you want to connect me and whatever. And he's like, no, just go for it. And I think they were asking way too much even for the pin. So I had very low expectations, if they were even going to sell the Red Baron. And if so, they probably want, crazy amount. And, so I responded to the ad for, it wasn't Bonsai Run. It was, I forget what it was.
Like Lost World or something.
Yeah, no, Lost World. You're right. And I said, hey, I responded on, and so this is like a new trick, I guess, but it's not, it's the first time I've ever done it, but plenty of people have done it before. Hey, I see your listing for Lost World, not interested in that, but I noticed in the background you've got this other thing. Is that for sale? And if so, how much do you want? And they responded almost immediately. They said, yes, it's for sale, and we want $100. So I immediately respond, and I'm like at my kid's flag football game, and I'm like,
not anymore.
Yeah. I'm like, yes, I will take it. I will pay your full asking price. And when can I pick it up? And basically after the game, I grabbed like McDonald's for the kids, and we went and picked up the game because it was only like 40 minutes from my house.
No, man, that's too slow. You should have just left your kids to like your neighbor.
No, I couldn't have done that. Yeah. And then the only issue was, and this thing looks very, very, very clean on the inside. It's nice on the outside, very clean on the inside. Like the PCBs are like the harness is still like zip tied to the PCBs, and everything looks great. It's the only issues are somebody had like hacked on a headphone jack and like tied it into the speaker thing, but that's no big deal, right?
That'll buff out.
The control panel's a little bit bent up, but it'll be fine. But it was missing the joystick, and that's the big issue.
That'll buff out.
Well, the Red Baron joystick is relatively unique. It's kind of like a combination of on the outside, it looks like Battle Zone with the trigger on top, but underneath it looks like Food Fight. And that configuration only ever came on Red Baron.
Tunnel Hunt.
Tunnel Hunt had the exact same joystick. That's not a very common one either. And not only that, but Arcade Jason used to repro them, and he doesn't anymore. So I had been on a hunt for a joystick, and I will be releasing a video relatively soon telling about the success I had finding a Red Baron joystick.
So so you have a joystick now. Spoiler alert.
I'm nodding. Yep, spoiler.
Okay, because I was going to say I have an extra set and some extra parts for some Battlezone joysticks. So if there's anything I could do to help with that.
Oh, I've got that. I appreciate that. And I'm getting like a text from my kid, but so other than that,
pick us up from soccer, Dad. This isn't funny.
No. He just got home. So that's the only pickup I've made so far. I've got 7 more games inbound though. So I've got 2 that have been inbound since last year that are just part of a trade that's taken a while to sort of, which is totally fine. I've got 3 loaners that are coming back. So 3 games that I let Mark borrow and that have been in his arcade. And then I got two more games that are coming through another buddy. I'll do a video about this soon that are free, that I got for free, which I'm pretty excited about. So in the meantime, I've been at capacity in the garage. I've been passing up great deals left and right, like things popping up that I wanted that I just haven't pursued, and it's not like from lack of funds because stuff has been free or like $100 complete game. Just don't have space. So I've been aggressively making space out in the garage, getting rid of a bunch of games. I found new homes already for the Superman, for my spare Outrun Mini project, for my spare Pac-Man Mini project, for my Ms. Pac Mini that I really had no plans for the Golden Tee. So those all are ready to go, and some of them I'm going to deliver. One of them I'm going to they're all set to go, and I'm still getting rid of my spare Robotron project. So I have a Robotron converted to, I think, Perfect Billiards, and it worked when I tested it, like barely worked, but so I'm getting rid of a converted Robotron. I want to get rid of my Sly Spy, which I believe is technically a dedicated Sly Spy, but it's essentially an HS2 cabinet. It might actually have more value as an HS2 than a Sly Spy.
There were no dedicated slice spies.
So these were factory, came from the factory from Dynamo, loaded with slice spy.
2 control panel.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Well, and you can look at the Don Panetta on KLOV has like a Dynamo serial number list, and that specific serial number is essentially like technically a dedicated slice spy.
It's in the range of we just spit out a bunch of slice spies during this. Yeah,
as opposed to shipping them as empty cabs, they shipped as slice spies. So, and I've decided that I'm going to be willing to sell the Carnival and the Vanguard that's sort of back over there. So anyone who's interested.
What you're telling us is next week is not sponsored by Sentinel Self Storage. You're not getting a storage unit?
Nope. I couldn't. I thought about maybe getting a shed, but
building a barn.
Yeah, something. So yeah, if you want a Robotron project, a Slice Spy / HS2, or Carnival or Vanguard, you know where to go. So, all right, with that out of the way, let's get to our main theme of the episode, which is all about Mecca. And if you don't know who Mecca is, you're probably wondering, who is this guy? What's he doing here? So why don't we get started with a little bit of kind of your history and your background, and how did you get into this hobby / industry in the first place? You were kind of born into this, weren't you, Mecca?
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, I was born into it. Yeah. Did you know that?
Tell us about it.
Did you know
I knew that. I don't know if everyone knows it.
Did I tell you that?
I have no idea.
You've said it a couple times on KLOV.
Yeah.
You were born into this.
I did. Yeah.
In the beginning, there was conception.
It even starts before that, I think.
Yeah.
Hang on. I like chewing ice cubes. I don't normally get to do it, but no. So 3 years ago, I was married, and she was actually like super cool about my game collection. Like I took up an entire room with my games. She and I said to her for like years, I was like, I could sell the stuff and we could get like a table that we could like sit down and eat at and stuff. And she was like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? And she's like, because you'll sell the stuff and then you'll get mad and then you'll go buy it again for like double the money or something, right? But so I got divorced, and my goal was I was going to move to Texas. I was going to go work with Game Fixer. I'm sure everyone knows who Game Fixer is, right?
Another well-known user of KLOV.
Where the hell's Texas?
Somewhere
I was
down
in
south of Mexico.
No, I was in Louisville, so it's outside Dallas. I'm sure.
Kentucky?
No, not Louisville.
I know where Louisville is. I used to go to auctions there. Like
there you go.
4 times a year.
In Denton, right?
Yeah.
There you see. So like, what happened was my mom. They thought that she had a stroke, and at that point, I think my dad was gone. He had passed like about 6 months prior, right? And she wasn't taking that very well, and she had what we thought was a stroke at the time. So I'm like, all right, I'll go live with you for a while, because I wasn't ready to like make the move yet. I still had to figure out where I was going to live and all of that. And like, I'm figuring this out like 1,000 miles away, right?
You're still in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
No, I was in Illinois at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago initially. So that's where I went back there. I was there 2 months, and then I made the drive down. But whatever the case, she was telling me a story. She was like, yeah, when you were born, your grandmother forced me back to work like immediately. And I was like, what, really? She's like, yeah. So my point of reference in all of this is like my grandpa, he was the arcade operator, and he stuck video games wherever he could because they made money, right? So they had a supermarket. I told this story on the Pie Factory podcast 9 years ago. I was like, yeah, we had a cockpit, Sinistar, and Star Wars right next to each other by the checkout counters. And I used to play them every day. I was always fascinated by games that talked. So, you know, Sinistar, Berserk, Star Wars, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 2 years old at the time, but I played them every day, you know.
I got a Vanguard for sale if you want. It talks.
No. All right, so yeah, I was like practically like born into it because I was in the grocery store like every day because my mom worked there, right? I like became self-aware some point in 1985. I would have been I was two. 86 is the when I like have the most memories though. I remember when Arkanoid came out.
Wow.
And Arkanoid was a big deal.
Did your grandpa convert every single game he owned into Arkanoid? That's what it seems like sometimes.
No. I don't remember what it was originally.
The Sinistar cockpit got converted to Arkanoid.
No.
I've seen an iRobot converted to Arkanoid.
No, but it did later get turned into a golden tee.
I was gonna say I've seen a deer hunter, a buck hunter turned into Arkanoid.
Funny story about that. I don't know if I should just skip to it, like how I got into this, right?
Yeah, do it.
So my grandparents, the supermarket, it got turned into a pool hall arcade in 1987. Like it closed toward the end of '86. I was there every day when they were like painting it and they put the carpet in and they did all that stuff, you know. And then it opened in '87, and like that kind of became like home base for me. Let's skip back to '86 for a moment. So my grandparents, they had their outside amusement business. It was a driving range, mini golf, batting cages, and go-karts. That's what they had then. And in '86, they added the bumper boats. They added that.
Boats. That's cool.
Yeah. So my grandpa, he had like kind of like the real good video games. They were in the golf building because a lot of traffic was going through there. A lot of people wanted to play mini golf and hit golf balls, right? The grocery store, I remember there was this room. It looked like this dark cave. It probably had about like 15 games in it. I didn't really go in there that much because I was afraid of the dark back then. So I kind of stuck to by where the checkout counters were. They had a Space Invaders. It was a Taito Space Invaders, not the Midway one, the one that had the joystick, right? Like years later, like when I started going to like free play arcades and I saw like Midway Space Invaders with the buttons, I was like real confused. I was like, where's the joystick, right? I didn't know the difference between the two. And then back by the go-kart track, which is where they would sell the tickets out of, there were two garages. Like the one was the go-kart garage where they were stored and they fix them. And then the other garage was video games. It's probably like 50 video games in there or something like that. And like sometimes I would get to go back there, and that's where they had Donkey Kong, and they had a Jack the Giant Killer. Did anyone ever play that?
No.
Yep.
There's a Jack the Giant Killer game.
You never heard of it? You never even heard
No.
of it?
Yeah.
Looking this up now. Hold on.
Yeah. They had that. My memory is like real fuzzy. I remember there was one of those coin-operated rides. It was like the boat. You sit in the boat, and there was like a thing where you push the button, and the thing lights up, and there's like a scary face in the window. Does anybody... I wish I knew what that was called.
Okay.
I remember the inappropriate Donald Duck coin-operated ride.
Yeah, they didn't have that.
This Jack the Giant Killer is actually pretty cool looking, like artwork wise, and like
Yeah.
Okay. I can see why you'd be like drawn to that. Like that's a cool looking game if you're like a kid.
Yeah. The real crazy thing was in '86. So the grocery store was closed, and like the big back room area, which is where they had like the meat and the seafood and all of that, they took all that stuff out. And like my pseudo great uncle, my house was literally next door, by the way. So my pseudo great uncle, he like comes and gets me, and he like walks me over there, and I walk into this room, and it's like hundreds of video games, and I'm like, what just happened here, you know? And it was an auction. My grandpa was hosting a video game auction, and he basically handed me an extension cord, and he said, "Here, go play."
Wow.
I don't even think. Yeah, I was almost 4. Right, I was almost 4 years old, and I'm like walking around, and now here's something funny. So this was the first time I had ever seen a Q*bert, and I was able to see the sides of it with like, you know, the colorful side art and whatever. And I went to plug it in, and it wouldn't plug in, and I'm like, it won't go in. The outlets didn't have ground pins.
So you're the guy that cut them all off.
Right. Yeah. So I told him about it, and
No,
he looks at it, and he'll like, yeah, he was like, "Oh, you'll be able to play it tomorrow." I'm like,
Liam's
okay.
like, no, you didn't.
But yeah. Does anybody know who Larry DeMar is?
Yeah.
Who's the other guy that created Q*bert?
No.
No? Oh no. He's the other whiz kid.
Yeah.
Vid kid.
Yeah.
I had seen him a few years ago, and we were talking. It was when Galloping Ghost Pinball opened. He came to that, you know, and we're talking. That I have a related story. We'll get to that in a moment. But I was telling him, I'm like, yeah, I'm from Crete, Illinois, right? And he's like, Crete? I went to an auction there back in '86, and I'm like, wow, that's surreal.
Huh.
Like Larry DeMar was there, and I didn't know who he was, you know. But
he was your
like,
pseudo great uncle.
Yeah. You were little.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you babysat me.
Yeah.
But you know,
that's the
thing
creepy
about
thing.
that,
When
Kay?
you find out an operator like babysat you when you were a kid, that's the weird thing in the hobby.
So for me, you guys know Geach on KLOV. He's also now on Coin Jam podcast. My mother-in-law babysat Geach when Geach was a little kid.
Yeah.
All right. So where were we going with this?
Oh, you were cutting the ground pins off of all the plugs.
Yeah, this is the origin story. Okay, so when the pool hall was a thing, my grandpa had a guy that would like come in and like fix the games. He would do like the little minor stuff that, you know, he could scotch tape and bubble gum back together and make the game work again, that kind of stuff. I was like completely enthralled by this man. You know, like as soon as he would hit the door, I was there. And I would just follow him around everywhere, and I would just like watch him fix games. Like when he would take the back door off the game and I would see inside of it, it like blew my mind, right? But it was right there in 1987. It was my grandpa. He had actually upgraded his Gauntlet to Gauntlet 2. And I would surmise that like the power supply crapped out on it. We're talking about crappy Atari switching power supplies, right? It was at that moment that I was like, and that game, in my opinion, is very unimpressive looking inside. But at that moment, I was like, man, I wish I knew how to do that stuff. Right? And so fast forward to 1995. So my grandpa, he had like heart trouble, like his medical problems, like it cost a lot of money. And they just weren't able to like put the money back into the business like they used to. So the opportunity arose that like these people that they were running one of those like country line dancing bar things.
Like a dirt floor bar?
No, not like that.
Oh.
they wound up leasing out the pool hall. So like all the video games, they all got sold, right? But they said to me, they said, you can keep one. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like I thought about it, like probably took me like a day to think about it. I was like, I want Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. That's the one that I want to keep, right? So they take it and they put it in my dad's, like his towing office. And the guys, they just kept playing the game. And they were like, well, this isn't going to work, so we have to sell this one too. And I'm like, man, fuck you. But then in 1997, they wound up leasing out the outside business, the mini golf and all of that. They leased that to somebody. And then 10 years went by. A lot of stuff happened in that 10 years. It's 2007. They're coming out to like negotiate, like, renewing the lease or whatever. And the guy counters by saying, I want to buy everything, right? And my grandparents were apparently oblivious to the fact that like there was a lending crisis mounting. Their master plan was, like, oh, we'll just run it, we'll sell it to somebody. But didn't work out that way. Ultimately, my grandparents went back into business at the age of 75. So my ex-wife, then girlfriend at the time, and we got like absorbed into this thing. We're making like $1/4 minimum wage on the family discount plan, working every day.
Like running the pool hall?
No, the golf, the mini golf.
The golf thing, yeah.
Yeah, the outside thing. And that building where the pool hall was, the country bar, the grocery store, that building, it just sat vacant like the first season. So one of the prospective buyers just so happened to be like a legitimate con artist. Like he actually served time for this stuff, right? And he let slip in 2008 to my grandpa that he had found a place that closed up, that they're like selling all of their equipment for like pennies on the dollar, right? And my grandpa, he didn't necessarily have all the blood pumping to his brain, but he picked up on that. And he was able to like track down those people. And then there was talks like, okay, do we want to do the indoor business too? My ex-wife and I were like, yeah, you should totally do it. Right. And that's what we did. We bought all that stuff and we did that. Now, I've told this story before. I told this on the Crimey Cave podcast like last year at some point. I was summoned from the outside. I was working out in the field someplace. I was probably at the go-kart track, probably. One of the kids comes up to me. He's like Big George. I'm named after my grandpa, by the way. He wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And I go in there and he says to me, like, I want you to go next door and plug all the games in. Right. And I'm thinking like, why? And he's like, well, I want you to make sure that they all work. And I'm like, why wouldn't they work? Like, we met the guy that fixed the stuff, right?
All the ground plugs got cut off.
No, they were all intact. Majority of them. I don't understand how those break off, by the way. I don't get that. Or
people, they snap them off so they can plug them into an ungrounded outlet.
Some kid with
Yeah,
an
they totally-
extension cord really wants to play a game.
Exactly. It was never just they broke off. And I mean, think of some of those Williams plugs. Those things were like tanks, right? Those were cut off, clearly.
okay. Well, it wound up half the games had issues. And I report back to the old man the next day. I'm like, yeah, half the stuff has issues. And he asked me, do you know how to fix it? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay. Now, show of hands. How many people know what a Rolodex is? Okay, good. My grandpa
Even
had
the young gun knows.
My grandpa had a magic Rolodex. Like, he had the names of like anybody. You need an electrician, you need a carpenter, you need a plumber, you need a Canadian Chance KJ. I'll bet your name was in there. somewhere.
Oh, maybe.
But he wound up finding a couple guys, and like one of the guys, he's my Jedi master. I pronounced him my Jedi master. He showed me how to do this stuff. And the other guy, he was just a mercenary technician. He didn't want me to learn anything. He wanted to make money, right? Like, I understand all these dynamics now, but my Jedi master, he says to me, he's looking at all the stuff. Like, there were a lot of video games in that collection, but there was one demographic of video game that was missing. The fighting game. He says to me, you guys need some fighting games. And I'm like, what? Really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, go tell the old man, right? And he goes, tells the old man, and he brings the stuff on his truck. It was a Street Fighter Alpha 2 and a Tekken 3. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. Under that black paint on that Tekken 3, I saw it said Killer Instinct. And that's when I started getting ideas. I was like, I restored that, by the way. It's at my place of work now. I sold it to them. The reason why I got into like the hobbyist collector thing was because I just wanted to learn more about how the stuff worked. Which, this is a funny story. I haven't told this story before. So back in the old days when I was married and I was actually invited to like other people's weddings and stuff, they would always seat us at the table that was like very far away from the people that we actually know. And after me just, you see me just kind of sitting here the whole time, like, it's like that for a while. And then all of a sudden I turn to this person over here and I start talking to him, right? And it gets like into, you know, like, hi, I'm so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so and I do this. What do you do? And when I tell them that I'm an arcade game technician, they're like, whoa, that is so cool, right? And the thought that's going through my head is like, this is the opposite of cool, dude. Like, this sucks, honestly. But then inevitably the conversation steers in this direction where it's like, did you go to school to learn how to do that? And the reaction when I tell them, no, I didn't. They're like, what? How did you learn how to do that? And I'm like, I learned how to do it by just doing it.
You didn't go to the Randy Fromm Academy?
I went last year. Now, going back to way back in the day, like my grandpa had a subscription. Show of hands, how many people know what Play Meter magazine is? Shit, he even knows. Wow, okay.
I've done a ton of research on my Inferno project, going through old issues.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my grandpa actually had a subscription. He had subscriptions, plural, to Play Meter and Replay. Play Meter was more appealing to me, like the visual thing, you know. It okay. But he would like read the magazine and then he would like give it to me. He'd be like, "Here, you can read it now," you know. And I would always flip back to the yellow pages in the back, and I'd be like, "Papa, can we get this game?" No. Papa, how about this game? No. And then like you flip through it, and then you see it. Randy Fromm's Arcade Schools. And I'm like, can I go to this? And by the way, I'm 5 years old at this point, right? And they're like, no. And I'm like, but why? So, yeah, going to Randy Fromm's class last year, you know, that was like a 35-year-long journey to like get to that point, you know, like it just blew my mind when that opportunity finally came up. But basically, since I was on the family 1/4 minimum wage plan, right? They were like, you're going to fix the games. And I'm like, really? Okay. So that's how I got into it. I just kind of got forced into it, you know, and I figured, well, if this is what I'm going to do, I may as well have fun doing it. So I think I had about 17 games at some point. So the benefit to working 7 days a week is that you can't spend your money anywhere else. So it's
like the military.
So like if some stuff turns up on KLOV for sale that's nearby me, I'm like, I'm in. Popeye for $225, I'm in. Play Choice 10, $450, I'm in. Yes, I
got mine for cheaper.
Those are Charlie prices. Those are almost Josh prices.
My top monitor looks better than yours. I'll bet you my games are better too.
Camera angle.
It's not a camera angle.
You wouldn't happen to have a spare Double Dragon, would you?
Do I?
It's like a running thing here. I've been looking for a Double Dragon for the better part of a year.
It's one of the most common PC-10 carts, and chance.
He's not looking that hard, and I have one. I just won't give it to him.
One.
Yeah,
I have one.
What do you want for
it? Do you want money for it? Because Chance won't buy.
He'll trade you a Skyscraper for it.
I'll buy. Oh yeah.
No, I sold all my Nintendo stuff. That's a sad story. We're not going to get into that. So basically, I served like a 6-year-long prison sentence working for my family. After my grandma and grandpa passed, then it becomes an estate thing, and people get mad about money and stuff, and ultimately we wound up just leaving one day. It was actually when my pseudo great uncle died. It was the same day that he died. We were just like, all right, well, we officially have no more connections to this place. And it turned volatile that evening. She even abandoned me. She just left me behind. Like, okay. So once we got out, then it was like, okay. After about a month and a half, like the last season, it like physically like destroyed me. Like I needed like a whole month and a half off to just recover from that. I did a ridiculous amount of days straight. But it was after that I went to the world famous Galloping Ghost Arcade for the first time. And
you weren't sick of it at work. You just didn't want to work on them.
Actually, I was going there asking if they needed somebody to fix games.
I think they do. That's what I've never been, but people say this place is amazing, but too many games are down or whatever.
Yeah.
Pinball Hall of Fame could use a hand.
Yeah, they could.
Oh.
Could use quite a few.
Just shut down if I were them. Anyway, sorry.
But they won't pay you, even for a quarter of minimum wage.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so you have to understand, like, my only exposure to like the amusement business was through my family's business, right? Like after we left and all these like people that I like was doing work for, I mean, it was scandalous, dude. So was able to find a good place. I was there for a while. It was actually a little over 10 years ago. They had a strip mall. They had like 3 units, and one of them was vacant from like the first time I ever went there. And after I was there for a couple of years, the man asked me one night, he was like, what can we put in there that'll make money? And I wasn't able to get my way into the Ghost. So I said to him, why don't you put in a classic arcade? And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like it's a thing now. Right? So you're all talking about like buying games and negotiation tactics and stuff like that. Dude, I never lost a deal. Like everything that popped up in the Chicago Craigslist that was good, we got it. I didn't lose a single deal. I had people after I put that place together, they were like, help me build an arcade. I was like, no. And they're like, why not? And I'm like, because I'm never going to be able to top that one. What I did for that one, I'm never going to top that. Like, there was a pinball deal. It was like a bulk deal. Check this out. This is 2015. It was a Twilight Zone, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Police Force, and a Gilligan's Island.
$24,000.
No.
Because like 10, 8, 3.
No.
Take a zero off of that.
No.
Even
No.
lower?
It was 11,000.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty much the cost of a Twilight Zone now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Like, and that was when the prices were like starting to go up.
Before inflation, but like we're getting there. Pinflation.
Not like 5 years ago go up.
Yeah,
not
COVID pricing. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But like, I made all of this effort to get all these like awesome Williams pinball machines. I get all this stuff. They actually built a room just for pinball, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, this looks kind of cool, right? Right before they opened, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was, I honestly don't remember. I like blocked it out of my memory. I don't remember if it was 2017 or 2018. They flipped all of them. Like, I would do all of this stuff at home for free, trying to like plot out, like, you know, can I get this for 200, that for 200, 250, 100? I'm talking video games, right? And got everything cheap just for them to like turn them around and like sell it for 1,000
before they even opened.
Right. They put them in the ticket arcade. They had like an area with like, and then they just, and I'm like, wow, okay. You know, but that was home base. That's what I did until COVID happened. And so in Illinois, they had like a thing with COVID where it was like phases, you know, like at the very beginning was phase 1, and it was phase 2, and then phase 3, like outdoor businesses could open again, and then phase 4, indoor businesses could open again, and then phase 5, it's like we're back to normal. You know, that was when vaccines and all that came out, right?
That slow roll open to come back to society.
Right. You know, and they wound up selling off the ticket arcade like right before phase 4 went into effect. And I'm like, oh, son of a, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, guess we're not going back there, you know? So it was actually like the very day that phase 4 went into effect. That was when I went to a place. It's like an historical place. It goes back like 65 years, I think. It's Funway. I went there and just happened to talk to the owner's son. You know, I was like, "Are you looking for a game technician?" And there was an opening. And I went there and I worked there I was there 3 months, and I wound up hurting my neck, and that was
Did
the
the
end of that.
Zaxxon fall on you?
No,
That's happened to a few folks.
No, I had a change machine fall on me. It was a BC, what was it? BC 20, the skinny row change machine. What was that? BC 20?
BC 9?
BC25. That was actually my change machine, and I left it behind.
So one thing that I saw you post a photo of. How did you become best friends with Eugene Jarvis? How does one accomplish something like that?
Oh, I don't know about
I'd love to know.
best friends, but
It's temporary acquaintances is still good.
No, not temporary.
No, we're way beyond temporary. No.
He has you in his phone but
his Rolodex.
Rolodex. Thank you. Yeah. You wouldn't call him to move a game, but you call him for advice.
I am in Eugene Jarvis's phone.
By the way, thank you, Wayne, for the $699 million Canadian super chat donation.
And how does one accomplish that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to go back to September 2013. I can pull up the exact date. Give me 1 second.
Because I have Jersey Jack in my phone. I'm in his phone, but that's Jarvis is that's other level.
Eugene's on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Jarvis is king.
I got so many questions I would love to ask.
The exact date.
And that's why you're not in his phone, because you would just be texting him at 2 a.m. going, "Hey, how do I
found this thing? Can I ask you about it?
I found this weird Defender.
Why does this not
the Defender,
yeah.
The Joust Defender.
All right. Yeah, it was September 18th, 2003. That's when it was.
The curve on this cabinet is slightly
2003. So this is
13.
20 plus 13.
2013.
Okay.
My bad.
My
bad.
This is a decade plus long friendship.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
He wouldn't have lasted 2 weeks with Liam or I in his phone.
I'm working my way up to it. Okay. So after I had gone to the Ghost, I went there so they used to have a Mortal Kombat function. It was called Shang Tsung's Fight Night. And it just so happened the first time that I went there was the night before Shang Tsung's Fight Night 3. And I went in there and I was talking to show of hands, how many people know who Doc Mack is? Okay. It was Doc Mack's. It was Doc's business partner back then. It was his business partner.
For those of you listening to the audio version, every single time, all of us have raised all of our hands.
Except Liam. Liam didn't raise his hands for Doc Mack.
What?
Yeah, he did.
Did you?
I met him.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He gave me a tour of the Ghost.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I was it was weird to me that you didn't. Anyway.
So the first time I asked Jerry, that was his name, Jerry. I asked Jerry, I'm like, hey, are you looking for a game technician? And he was like, you need to talk to Doc about that. And I didn't know who anybody was. I had never been there. I was too busy. I was too busy working 7 days a week, right? So I'm like, well, I'm coming tomorrow because you got the Mortal Kombat thing. And by the way, for those that don't know, I was living with my then in-laws in Rockford, Illinois, which is very, very far away from Chicago, by the way. Okay. So I go there Saturday now. It was Shang Tsung's Fight Night 3. And Doc was right in the front. And I meet him. And he takes me to his corner in the room, and he's showing me all this stuff. He had the raw footage, the videotape footage from Mortal Kombat 1 when they recorded all the people doing all the moves and stuff. I don't know if I'm supposed to let that out there, but it's out there now. He's showing me all this stuff, and it's this dude just met me, right? Okay. He said years later when I asked him why'd you show me all this stuff? And he was like, you had a serious look about you. I'm like, okay. But nevertheless, what I learned was that all those people that worked at Williams Midway, they have Facebook and stuff, and you can just kind of reach out to them.
Yeah.
They're active people.
Yeah.
I
agree to that. I am actively stalking 3 members of Nintendo of America right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that they're a litigious organization in any way.
podcast. Yeah, it's the most litigious organization out there.
You're gonna get us sued.
Yeah.
But one of the people that I reached out to was George Petro. I didn't know much about anything about him. I just knew that he programmed NARC.
Yeah.
And he's the big buck hunter guy. I knew that, you know. But I messaged him on probably on my phone, and he didn't answer. It took him about like a month to get around to like answering me, and I was working in a warehouse full of like junk games, missing back doors, by the way. The ground pin thing. What's the deal with like the back doors disappearing? I don't understand that either.
We'll take them off thinking that it will help keep the games cool.
No, because like my Ms. Pac-Man had no back door, and the guy who owned it for decades couldn't even explain that to me. So like,
I went to one warehouse where there were a whole bunch of games, and none of them had back doors, except all the back doors were in a pile in the back corner.
That happens a lot.
It
What?
does. It does.
Why wouldn't you just take the back door off and set it on the side of the cabinet?
All right. So
Anyway,
he responds to me, and I said to him, I said, do you know anything about like the hardware? Like Y unit, T unit, Wolf unit, that kind of thing. Because I figured it would be cool to like learn about this stuff from the people that actually like, worked on it. Right. So then he says, how about you come to the office on Wednesday? I'm like, oh, okay. And like the day rolls around, and my ex-wife, I said to her, I said, do you think I should go to this thing in a suit? And she's like, yeah, probably. And I'm like, okay.
Figured it's a job interview.
Thinking that it was a job interview, but no, I got something better that day. All right, so I get there. The woman,
You're in a suit though.
yeah, I get there. The woman's name was Lisa. She was the one like in the doorway, the entryway, and she's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm here to see George Petro," right? She's like, "Oh, okay." And then she like goes to him and like, your guest person is here, and he's like, "Oh, okay, bring him in," right? And I go into like the big like boardroom looking thing. It's got like the Buck Hunter trophies and like the Brian Urlacher picture and like all this stuff in there, right? I'm sitting at this long table with the man, and I'm telling him basically the same story that I told all of you. And he was the one that said it. He was like, so what you're telling me is you were born into this. He was the one that said it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so, right? But the woman pops into the room about like 45 minutes in or so, and she whispers to him, Eugene is here. Right? And she walks out, and I like lean into him. I said, does she mean Eugene Jarvis? And he's like, yeah, do you want to meet him? I'm like, yes, please.
I mean, I guess if it's not too much trouble.
I mean, if you gotta twist my arm.
And then he just walks in.
Eugene who?
And he sits down, and we're talking about NARC and how they made NARC and all that stuff. Because I was there when that game like came out. It's very, very intriguing story about that. Like they delivered the game in like one of those big refrigerator box looking things, and they delivered a technician with it. And I'm like, I wonder what
Also
he's
in the
gonna
box.
do. I wonder what he's gonna do. And then like he opens it. He
chained to the side of the game.
Now, you want to talk about impressive video game interiors? The inside of that game, that was like, right?
About 90% ROM.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what he was doing is he was installing the program ROMs because
they didn't come installed yet.
Wait,
no,
like 100 ROMs into
no,
that game.
Like in a little suit, like a little briefcase, like handcuffed to his wrist. Like,
right.
I have to do this.
No, I learned that.
To be me.
So that was like December 1988, right?
Wow.
And I learned that the game actually wasn't released until 1989. So what we got basically was like, I wouldn't say it was a prototype, but it was like real early release. So that meant that like
It's like a street test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
game,
I mean, they did a lot of
right.
that.
It was,
Williams had,
yeah,
the
it was
whole
like a test
program
game.
for it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. It was like a location.
There's a whole
test
division of the company that was like structured on.
They made a lot of them too, and they would have like a little package that would went out to operators. Like, here's this game, you get to keep it at the end, but like, could you write out the data for the coin drop every week and send it back to us?
Yeah.
So
Nintendo did something similar.
So anyway, I remember like I go home. I had to change clothes. I was going to be in that suit all day. And my ex-wife and we went to a restaurant. We're sitting down and we're eating. And she says to me, I told her what happened, right? And she was like, what was that like for you? Like, to meet him, you know? And I'm like, it was kind of like a life's ambition, really. But the Eugene thing didn't start to like really take shape until about 5 years later. So I know the man. He runs Chicago Game Space in Logan Square in Chicago. If anybody knows what Logan Hardware Arcade is,
Yep. Only from John did an episode of that.
okay, it's out there. It's right there. He Chicago Game Space wasn't it wasn't made yet. But what happened was another guy that I know, I used to see him at like all the Mortal Kombat events at the Ghost back in the day. He posted something about like they needed an NBA Jam Tournament Edition cabinet for the 25th anniversary event, right? And I immediately jumped on it because we had one at the place, that I was working at the time. Because I thought it would be like good exposure for us or something like that, right? Well, the day rolls around that the event happens, and the man's like, yeah, you need to be there. And I'm like, okay. Well, now, I'm a product of the suburbs. I don't like going to the city, but for that, we're going to go to that, right? But like, because at that point, I had never met Mark Turmel because he lives out in California. I used to talk to him on Facebook. I used to talk to him like in the middle of the night. Like, it was crazy. But he was there, and Sal DeVita was there. And I was telling Sal, I was like, dude, when NBA Jam was new, like I used to play as you in the game. So, and John Hay, he was the sound designer. Like, I already knew him. He gave me his Total Carnage, by the way. Like, I've talked about that.
That's
like,
cool.
It was the first one that built. It was a prototype. But then in walks Eugene Jarvis with George Gomez. Up to that point, I'd never met George Gomez. Show of hands, who knows who George Gomez is?
Is he still at Stern?
Yeah.
I may unfortunately know who I am too. I've been very openly critical of. Anyway, keep going.
Uncanny X-Men.
I'm not a big fan of Stern anymore.
We're not going there. Okay,
yeah,
so
fair. Yeah.
So we went out to like this. I think that one we went to an Italian restaurant. And I go to the Game Space man afterwards, and I go to him. I said, what's the next thing? And he's like, well, we're going to have an event in November. I think it was November. Yeah, it was November. He was like, your Defender and your Mortal Kombat 2. Can we borrow those for that show? We'll pay you money. I'm like, okay. My ex-wife got that money, but whatever. So then I had to go to that thing, right? So I go to that thing. There's my Defender. There's my Mortal Kombat 2. It blew a fuse. I didn't realize it at the time. Like, the marquee light was jacked up on it. That's why it was blowing fuses. And the Defender needed help too. Now, by the way, my games that I had at home, I never played them. They were basically like end table furniture. That's what they were. Okay. But I'm at this thing, and Eugene Jarvis comes to it. We're drinking beer. And we're playing My Defender. And the whole time we're playing My Defender, we're like, man, I wish this was Robotron. We didn't have a Robotron. But fun fact about that function, if you look up Eugene Jarvis on Wikipedia, My Defender and Mortal Kombat 2 are actually cited on his page. Anyway, the creator of Gorf, Jamie Fenton, was there that night. And after this event, we went to a fancy Greek restaurant. But it was there that Eugene gave me his phone number. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy, right? Now, the place that I work now, I used to do contract work for them. I'd go there like every couple of weeks. I'd do that for a few months, and then, I'd go on hiatus for a while. But they had gotten a firepower. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. I took a picture of it and I sent it to him. He didn't answer. And I'm like, okay, maybe he gave me like a bogus phone number. I don't know, right? Fast forward a few months, that was when Galloping Ghost Pinball opened. Larry DeMar is there, and I said something to him about it. I was like, I texted Eugene and he didn't answer me, right? And he says to me, he goes, yeah, Eugene just kind of operates on Eugene time. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, even still, like, to this day, like, there's times where, like, I'll text him, I'll be like, hey, some people beat Cruising USA here or something like that. And, like, he won't answer immediately. But, like, a couple days later, he'll just pop back. He'll be like, cool. Speaking of firepower, can we tell a firepower story?
Let's do it.
That firepower, so my boss, Gar, that's like his favorite pinball game. It's over a year and a half ago, he bought one of those new CPR playfields for it. Because the playfield was like so ripped up, it was covered in like a whole mylar thing. Like the whole thing was mylar. So he wanted to do a playfield swap on it. And he says to me, he's like, you're going to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Right. So that playfield had just sat in his back office for like forever. And a couple of guys came through on a day where like the power just happened to go out. So we're eating Papa John's like in the dark, right? And eventually the power comes back on, and these two guys, they were streaming pinball is what they were doing. They were playing Foo Fighters, and they wanted to play Earthshaker for some reason. Like, okay, cool. But one of the guys, we got to talking like out in the parking lot when they're getting ready to leave, and he's like going on about like how he does playfield restorations and he does this and that, right? And I think I was the one that mentioned it. I was like, we got a firepower playfield that's waiting to get swapped. He's like, so he was like, yeah, I'll be able to do it in February, right? Okay. So let's go back in time to like this past New Year's, like the first Friday after New Year's. I normally did not go into work on a Friday or a Saturday. It was not a normal thing. Now it is.
Too busy.
Except today. Yeah. Yeah, they were afraid that like, oh, it's too busy. I'm like, dude, I used to do the Ghost on a Saturday. I did it on multiple Saturdays. I'm like Rambo over here, dude. I fight in the trenches. But anyway, I was fixing another game, and a woman comes up to me and she said, I tried pushing start on that game and it wouldn't start. And I'm like, oh, really? Which game was it? And she points to Firepower. I'm like, what? And I walk up to it and I push start. Sure enough, it doesn't start. Oh, Okay. Well, that's weird. Now, by the way, that game was running a Rotten Dog MPU driver board, right? Ultimately, like I wound up like shaking the machine side to side a few times, and then I pressed start, and the game would start. I'm like, okay.
It was the MPU, wasn't it? It was garbage.
Hang on.
Okay.
No, I realized after the fact that probably what it was the left trough switch. It was probably just dirty.
Oh, I was gonna say hot take. Like it's called Rotten Dog for a reason.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, now check this out, right? So the woman says to me, she's like, well, looks like you have the magic touch. And I'm like, I guess I do. And I walk away and I go back to doing the thing that I was doing, like 2 games over, right? And I was replacing an EOS switch on a Monster Bash. And I look over and I see her like start the game. I look over here and then I go back and the woman's gone. And I'm like, there's no way that she just played 3 balls in 3 seconds, right?
It's like she was never there to begin with.
It was weird, right?
She's a ghost, or she just walked away.
So I go over back to firepower and I press start. The game starts. And then instinctively, I always press both flippers on any game, on any pinball game, just to make sure that the flippers are working, right?
Yeah. I do the left flipper every single time.
So I press both flip. Now, we got to go back a little bit. We got to go back to November, okay? You know that sound that firepower makes, that thing, okay?
Yeah.
Now, it's a free play arcade. It's very customary for people to just like start games and walk away, right?
As is tradition.
But what was real unusual about that was I would walk up to it, and like that's one of the old solid state games where it has like a game over light. And I'm like, the game over light is flashing, right? And I'm like, oh. And I just wrote it off like it's just a Williams game being a Williams game. I know how that soundboard stuff works, right? And the flipper reset thing, that's what it was. When you pressed both buttons at the same time, you would watch the score displays and it goes back to 0. It was resetting the game. And I'm like, all right, well, I have to finish Monster Bash first. So I just shut the game off, right? And I go back to doing what I was doing, and then I go back to firepower. And I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, okay, this is, I don't know where to start, right? And I'm looking at all the stuff. You know, I put it in test mode and all that sort of thing. Ultimately, what I wound up figuring out was I had to unplug the switch row and column plugs and plug them back in. And then it worked. Okay, well, we fixed it, right? A week goes by. I go in on Friday again. It starts doing it again, right? And I'm like, well, this is going to be easy. I know how to do this, right? And I do the same thing. You know how the lights, they like flash on and off and attract?
Yeah.
They stopped flashing. I look at it and I'm like, huh. Look at the score displays. They're not moving. And I'm like, huh. Well, looks like the game locked up. All I got to do is just turn it off and back on, right? You'll never believe in a million years what happened. I turned it off and I turned it back on, and all the score displays were blank.
Poof. Yeah.
And I'm like, what just happened here? Okay. So I took all the PIAs and the CPU out, and I'm like, I have just the soundboard at home to plug these all in. Actually, I plugged the PIAs in one of my ROM boards. The error display worked. The sounds worked. the coin door inputs worked. I'm like, well, I guess it's not the PIA. The CPU? Put that in the soundboard. No, CPU is good. I mucked with this thing for like a week, maybe a week and a half. It's an unsolved mystery. So I said, gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make Firepower run original hardware now.
Yeah. Get rid of that rotten dog board.
And then, so me and one of the other kids, you know, I asked him, I'm like, all right, I show him a picture. I'm like, you see this board? Okay, I need you to find me any one of these on the shelf with all the pinball boards. And he comes back, he's got 3 of them, 3 driver boards. I knew there wasn't an MPU. The reason why the game had a rotten dog in it was because it didn't have an MPU. But we have all these driver boards. I'm like, all right, well, that's half of the battle. Now I got to find the MPU. Now we're going to go back to the beginning of the show where we're talking about the post office. We're going to talk about that now. So I'm looking around on eBay. By the way, pro tip. If you're looking for like a System 6 MPU or a Firepower MPU, you're going to see these things pop up on eBay that look like they're selling the stuff, but they're not actually selling you the board. They're selling you a repair service.
Yeah.
You got to read all the text. Okay. But I found a guy in Virginia. I don't think it was you. That was selling it was a System 3 and a System 6 MPU. It was a 6A. Something that Firepower would use, right? And I'm looking at the pictures. You ever notice that the pictures, they're always like the crappiest quality pictures? They look like they were taken with a phone camera from like 15 years ago. I don't understand that. But I'm looking at the System 6 board, and I'm like, man, that thing is filthy. You go on my website. If you go on arcaderepair.net, there's 2 articles about Firepower, Operation Firepower, Part 1 and Part 2. But the Part 1 is the one where like I got all the board stuff. This thing looked like it was thrown into like a mud bog or something, and they just took it out and dried it off with like a hair dryer or something, and like, here you go, this is it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to wash that thing in the sink. Like, forget the whole needing an MPU for Firepower. No, I want to wash the thing. That's part of being OCD. Clinically OCD. But the crazy thing about this board, or the 2 boards, is that I bought them, and I go and I look at the tracking the next day, and there's like no activity. Or maybe they took it in. But then like the following day, I'm like expecting it to like be on the road or something, right? It wasn't. So I'm like, well, try again tomorrow. Now we're 3 days in. No movement. Why? I don't watch the news, right? I don't watch like TV news. I was oblivious to the fact that there was a snowstorm in Virginia. And apparently that shuts the whole state down, I guess.
We're almost a southern state.
Yeah, anywhere Virginia and South, people just don't want to drive in the snow.
Yeah, you guys don't really have a concept for winter tires.
So
Don't blame me. I'm from New England originally, so I grew up in the snow.
Doesn't matter.
yeah, it does.
What the hell is snow?
It's dust, but cold.
Oh,
It's clean
That's
dust.
It's, yeah. Do you remember last September?
that's a long time ago.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Okay.
So eventually I look at the tracking information and it says there's a weather delay. I'm like, oh, okay. And then from there, in like a 24-hour span of time, it goes from Virginia to Chicago to here in a day. I'm like, okay, well, it's here. It should almost be here. Now, by the way, there's a clock. The playfield guy, he's about to come and take the playfield, right? Okay. So it gets to our distribution center here, and it just sits there for 3 days for no reason. And then finally, it makes it to the local office here. That's Sunday, and then it delivers on a Monday after the playfield has already been taken. It's like, well, guess we're not doing that in Firepower anymore, right? Now, I was proactive in this whole approach. We also have a Blackout, which is another System 6 game. I was testing the driver board in that first while I was waiting for this MPU that took like 11 days to get here, by the way. I'm just like, imagine the odds, you know. But I go through all the rigmarole of like, you know, trying to like overhaul the MPU, and I connect it all up. And would you believe it just worked on the first try? Driver board had some issues. Some of them, you know, it's old. Some of them I just goofed up. You know, I burned some of the solder pads off and just forgot to solder those pins. I just forgot to solder them. Like
I thought you had the magic touch.
No, I'm a hack. Yeah, don't take my advice ever. But no, I had all the stuff running in Blackout for like a month, and then MGC is coming up. And Gar says to me, what was that, like 2 weeks before MGC? He's like, yeah, I need the Firepower boards. I got to go give them to the man so that he can like test all the, you know, the solenoids and stuff, right? And I'm like, okay. And that meant that I had to overhaul Blackout. I did Blackout. Okay. Okay, here's the Firepower stuff. The man takes it to his house. He puts them in the game. And he sent me a video. He sent me a video of like, he turns it on and like the LEDs are stuck on, like it's not doing anything. And I'm like, that's impossible. I tested it in that game for a month, right? So then there's panic. Panic sets in. Gar basically repossesses his game from the man and like brings it back to me, right? Like I just pop in one day and there's Firepower in all of its restored glory. Like the restored playfield, I should say. The rest of it's still original. And I'm like, okay. And I put the boards in, the original hardware, because they wound up testing it with another Rotten Dog board that was in a World Cup, which is ancient. And I put the original stuff back in. Now, you want to talk about Magic Touch? It worked for me. Yeah.
That's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So then
receipt.
I don't know if he put the driver board power plug in the MPU. I don't know. But
so his IDCs.
No. Actually, I never replaced any of the power plugs or anything on those. They're just
always start with power and connections.
Yeah.
And you've got, like you mentioned, your website, arcaderepair.net. You know, you got pictures of the Firepower all over that. And
yeah, it was a very fun project. Like I had a lot of fun doing it. But so then they brought it to MGC. Now there was a lot of talk. They were like, if they put it in the game hall, you know, like where people just bring their games, like it would have won Best in Show easily. But he didn't want to do that, and there's a reason why. Because when I put all the stuff in, and I had to adjust all the metals on it. Like they didn't play it at all. They didn't get to play it at all, you know? So I had to like adjust all the metals, and like I smelled something. I'm like, this thing smells like burning 1970s electronics. Why does it smell like that? Is this just what the game is just going to smell like with the original hardware? Like what is this, right? And I'm like so I was working on that and Blackout at the same time. Blackout was in the back because like they just took it off the floor. Like it had something was wrong with it. And the deeper I dug into it, I found more stuff wrong with it, you know. But then I turned my head over to firepower and I see sizzle coming out of the playfield, and I'm like, what the? And one of the coils burned up. One of the locks, one of the ball lock, not the very top one, but like the next one down. That coil, like that transistor, just shorted. I'm like, okay. So now there was like some fear. They were like, man, if we bring this to the show and it like does that again, like that's not going to be good. We should run the rotten dog. I'm like, no, that's weak. We're not weak. We're going to flex. We're going to use the original stuff, and it survived. Like nothing bad happened. But there was a girl stationed outside of the presentation room, like where they were doing like the panels, right? And there's a TV behind her, and I saw the schedule, and it said Eugene Jarvis Raw Thrills, Saturday, 2:00. I'm like, yep, I'm going there. And I go there, and Eugene, like how he always walks into a room, he walks in, slaps me on the shoulder, and he was like, dude, I played the firepower. That thing's awesome, right? I'm like, whoa. Because I told him about it. I told him what I was doing, right? So he actually went to the Garcade room and played firepower, and he was like, can you make mine like that? And I'm like, we'll figure this out after, right? So he does the panel, and then we go outside, and there just happened to be a dude. You all know what visual pinball is. There was a dude, he actually made like a phone app for visual pinball. He's showing it to us, and we're like, whoa, that's cool. But then I said to Eugene, I said, no. If you want to make your firepower look like that one, you must come with me. And I took him to the Garcade room, and I showed Gar. I said, Gar, I brought you a present. I brought you the man himself, right? And I Jedi mind tricked him into autographing the game.
There you go. There you go.
So how about that? That's 6 degrees of separation right there.
It all comes together. So Mecca, I got 2 more questions for you. One came from Encore Arcade in the live chat. He wants to know what the name of your family arcade was. I don't know if maybe he grew up in the same area. And
Crete Family Fun Center.
Crete Family Fun Center. And then my question, which is also name related, where did the name Mecca come from?
See, I told that story. Years ago, I used to play Quake and Quake 2, like competitively. My second Quake 2 clan, we got into some trouble in the community. I mean, we were like all 16, 17-year-old dudes, you know, we're just ignorant by nature. And it's kind of intriguing because all the other people in the other Quake clans, you know, they were all 16, 17-year-old dudes also. We were apparently too extreme for them. And it got to a point where we had to, like, basically ditch this name and ditch our names, right? So up to that point, I was, if you're a Star Wars fan, I'm sure you know who Boba Fett is. That was my name. I was Boba Fett back then. And I had to come up with a new name. And there was a guy in the other Quake clan, you know, he told me just out of the blue one day, he was like, you know, if you ever need to come up with a new name, just look at your CDs. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm not changing my name anytime soon. But so at that point in time, the only CDs that I really owned were Megadeth and Metallica CDs, you know? So I went through all the CDs. I'm looking like at all the track names, and I'm like, nah, that's not going to work, you know? I was going reverse chronological order too, by the way. But then I get to my Megadeth stuff, and I'm like, no. And then it just so happened to be the very last track on the first album, Mechanics. I was like, mechanics. Mecca with a capital M. It was with a capital M then. Yeah, that's going to be my name. And it was funny.
Do I dare ask where the Get Smart
Avatar
came from,
PFP.
Nikki?
Honestly, I don't remember. I remember signing up for KLOV because we had a Ridge Racer and it would do this blue screen thing. I was able to figure it out like, a few years later. That most of the threads that I posted on KLOV with like issues, like no one ever helped me.
Yeah.
Because
it's always the crazy stuff that's like often it's like nobody just
crazy obscure, like yeah.
They fixed it, but he didn't want to tell anyone how to do it.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, well, I got to come up with an avatar for this, and I have no idea where the shoe phone came from. I have no idea.
Well, and Encore said that he's from the Homewood Floxmoor area.
Okay.
And had been there many times. So yeah, small world.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go around the horn again. Kind of, sort of the mirror to the beginning. We'll wrap it up. What's coming up? Anything coming up on your channels? Anything you're working on? Parts you're looking for? Starting with Liam, what's next for Retrobotics?
Well, eventually we'll make a video about something. It could be Judge Dredd. It could be iRobot. I've already tried several times to make a video about iRobot. Started
Judge Dredd.
recording and then just stopped.
Judge Dredd. Please do Judge Dredd.
Pinball.
It's so good.
It's a good pin, but parts. I've got a couple projects in the works that eventually I'll need things for.
Inferno joystick.
Inferno joystick, yeah. Hopefully I'll have that taken care of in the near term. I'm really crossing my fingers. Hopefully going to do a cloak and dagger thing, so I need some parts for that.
Dirty.
And Cubert cubes also need some parts for that, but not in the immediate future. So pretty good right now.
Cool. Kay, how about you? What's next?
I don't know. I just fix stuff. So I'll just make videos of me fixing stuff, and you can watch it. That'd be pretty cool. The only thing I'm really looking for parts-wise is the same thing I was looking for last time on my Raven Pinball, the little plastic display cover that goes around the little alphanumeric display. Just whatever that thing is, I need that because I'm missing that. That's all I need.
Chance, when are you going to release another episode in the Canadian Arcade? Is it your fault or is it Josh's fault?
That's a good question. He's not in the chat right now because I know he's playing Helldivers 2 today because that was just his day to play Helldivers 2. That's a good question. We do have a couple of things in the pipe. We are bored right now. But side note, we are working on something really, really big right now that we can't talk about because I alluded it to you earlier, Charlie.
Bigger than The Last of Us.
Bigger than The Last of Us. It's not a film and television. Well, maybe not bigger than The Last of Us, but it's not a film and television project. It is an arcade-related project, and it is temporary. Can't talk about it yet. Ink's not fully on the contract yet, but we'll.
You sold all of your driving games to Macklemore?
No. Oh God, could you imagine? No. We'll. You know what? Let's talk about. Let's segue. Let's bring that back next episode. We'll chat about what's going to be big on that. But other than that, I'm looking for a working Skyscraper PCB. No.
Double Dragon PC10 card.
A Double Dragon PC10 card would be really nice. And then I don't have to worry about looking for X-Men 4-player art anymore. I have found a source for it, so I just have to buy that now.
Good.
Yeah.
Mecca, how about you? What's next? What are you looking for? Yeah.
I guess Astrocade address customs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking to Toledo Flyer for a while now. We did get a couple of the FPGA data customs. IO customs. I mean, all of those customs. It's stupid, dude.
Yeah. Cool. And for me, still testing flybacks for arcade parts to repair. The Geo7 FBO I think looks really good. Next up is just another batch of 4900 and 20EZ flybacks. Still fixing the amp monitor in Mark's Star Wars. Hoping to have that done so that it can be on location for May the 4th. Next up after that is the J-Rock Multi-Williams I'm doing for him. I still need to do the 6,000 subscribers live stream thing. And I was going to say that I needed a Red Baron joystick, but I no longer need one. Want to say just thanks again to everyone in the live chat. Random Billy Bob, Arcade Cup, great to see you. Encore's Arcade, Marquee Mark, Wayne, and of course everyone who made a super chat or a donated channel membership. So Marquee Mark again, Papa Sean 69, Wayne, Billy Bob. Thank you all so much. Mecca, thank you for joining us. We'll have to have you back sometime. And yeah, that'll do it for episode 27. We'll be back next month. I still need to release the audio version of 26, so we'll get those back to back. And otherwise, I know.
Oh my god,
you guys cuss so much that I have to bleep it all out. Anyway,
Oh, come
thanks
on.
for watching. We'll see you next time.